Story. Adamas Episode 5 begins with the house going crazy when Woo Sin passes out in Chairman Kwon Jae-kyu's room. The fire extinguisher is out, but to Tae Sung and Hai Su's horror, it's still there, unconscious. As everyone scrambled to call the doctor to wake him up, someone surreptitiously took Woo Sin's tape recorder. Meanwhile, a masked man sneaks into a building with the express intention of killing whoever is in the bathroom. However, it seems that Miss Lee was ready for the attack and immediately knocked him down with the taser. Meanwhile, Soo Hyeon stands below deck for the mysterious person who sent her the message. As he was about to leave, Seo-hee approached him and let him know that she was the one who texted him. In the meantime, we find out that Mrs. Lee was expecting things to happen, and she told Hyuk Pil that the person had no fingerprints and it would be difficult to identify him. Curious, he asks her what will happen to Soo Hyeon and she assures him that Seo-hee will take care of him. Below deck, she tells Soo Hyeon that this is purely a test to see if anyone is watching him and that, like him, she is also bait at some point. There. Everything she has told him so far has been deliberately planned and has gone as she wished. Thanks to him, she caught up with the person who was following her. When he asked her to tell him what was going on and who she was, she asked him to come with her. Meanwhile, Woo Sin woke up, even though he was still lying on the bed. Tae Sung walks in and gets straight to the point, Adamas's location. Woo Sin explains why the chairman didn't keep Adamas in another location and mentions that they should steal it as soon as possible, making Tae Sung feel disgruntled. Meanwhile, Dong Rim stands outside the house, wondering what to do with Woo Sin's tape recorder. Also, in a rather angry one-way conversation, we see Miss Kwon taunting Miss Yoon, saying that she knows she was the one who introduced Woo Sin. She wonders if it's because he looks like Min Jo, and she thinks Hai Su will have an affair with him. Miss Yoon said nothing, but when she walked out the door, there was a very scary expression on her face. Then, a very tall Yun Jo hallucinated his reflection taunting him in the mirror about his incompetence and whether he would let Soo Hyeon ruin everything for him. Finally, he asks her to solve the problem once and for all. Yun Jo immediately called someone and asked them to do her a favor. While all this is going on, Soo Hyeon is brought to Hyuk Pil's shelter with a bag on his head. That night, Dong Rim gave the tape recorder to Woo Sin and shared his predicament. He asks to help him get out of the house to save his father. Then, Hai Su chooses a dress and sends it to Miss Yoon with a rather sexy message. There seems to be something between the two, or is it between two completely different people, and we just get the wrong clue. Woo Sin said that he was going to steal Adamas that night, and he made sure it was in the president's office because the president had left the entire middle of the room empty just so he could admire its beauty. So they have to lower him from the ceiling using the button on his desk. It's impressive how Woo Sin took the time to break everything, even the password that could protect the switch. At the shelter, Soo Hyeon is completely shocked to learn that Woo Sin is colluding with everyone to steal Adamas. At first, Soo Hyeon doesn't believe it, even laughing at the thought of someone committing murder with Adamas. However, when Hyuk Pil mentions that Woo Sin recorded Hai Su's confession, he has no choice but to rethink whether he wants to participate. In the end, Soo Hyeon leaves the place, saying that he won't be involved in this. Unfortunately, they hit him on the head when he started to fidget excessively, knocking him unconscious. When he regains consciousness, Hyuk Pil and Tae Sung help the brothers talk to each other, where Soo Hyeon repeatedly scolds Woo Sin for doing something too dangerous while the latter tries to calm him down. And him. In the end, Woo Sin tells him he'll do it anyway, while Hyuk Pil asks Tae Sung to stop the Adamas plan because they might have other things to do. In another room in the safe house, Ms. Lee tortures the masked killer and asks him about the man Seo-hee saw when she was a child. Elsewhere, when Team A's Captain Lee learned that his younger brother had gone missing while trying to get rid of Seo-hee, he took action. And at first glance, he's not too happy. At the shelter, Seohee and Soo Hyeon unanimously overcome the whole ordeal. He mentions that Woo Sin, the head who has the weight of the two, puts everything first and surrenders to Haesong, feeling a bit uncomfortable, and Seohee mentions that she finds it weirder than Chong. Woo, even though he knows he did nothing, insists he's the killer. But why? Either way, after the interrogation turns out to be fruitless, Soo Hyeon demands to carry out the interrogation to get something from him. Soo Chul plays the nice policeman, and through a series of questions he gets several answers. Although he doesn't reveal all of his secrets, it's something. Outside the room, however, everyone was quite upset about the outcome. They realized that torturing him was pointless, it won't break. In Haesong, Woo Sin wonders if the possibility of JQ being an accomplice to the murder is possible. However, this idea is thwarted when Dong Rim tells him that he asked Hae-soo for help to transfer his father to another hospital. Unfortunately, Woo Sin realized he had made a big mistake. Meanwhile, Hae-soo sees Miss Yoon wearing the dress she chose earlier and tells her how he chose it for her. Mrs. Yoon looks both sad and heartbroken, and after she leaves, Hae-soo calls her a hopeless romantic. So, does that mean Mrs. Yoon loves Yeon-jo, and when Min-jo dies, they marry Hae-soo? Woo Sin catches her on her way out and asks her to let Dong Rim's father go. Unfortunately, Dong Rim arrives and learns too late that, contrary to her beliefs, Hae-soo and Woo Sin are not working together. After Hae-soo and the president leave, Woo Sin and Tae Sung talk about the button under JQ's desk. Tae Sung says it's supposed to be an emergency button, but no one uses it. So either there's never an emergency or it's not for emergencies. The odds were 50-50, and although Tae Sung asked him not to execute his plan too soon, Woo Sin was determined. He did that night. At dinner, it's awkward. Something is clearly going on between Yeon-jo and Mrs. Yoon, and Hae-soo looks down on her husband. Yeon-jo taking her father's place makes her extremely uncomfortable, while Miss Yoon feels happy. In Haesong, Woo Sin spends a minute thinking about the consequences of pressing that button with a 50-50 chance, while Tae Sung meets his colleague outside the house and tells him to prepare to quit if Woo Sin encountered this. At the shelter, Soo Hyeon decides to go the crazy route and injects him with a muscle relaxant. He looked almost euphoric doing this, and when manager Lee started to feel the effects of the relaxant, Woo Sin saw Adamas slowly descending from the ceiling. Or, well, at least the box. Adamas is gone. Mrs. Kwon took it with her for safekeeping. Woo Sin realizes that JQ is trying to destroy evidence. Episode 5 ends here. Episode 5 review. I think it will take Adamas some time to really get into the details of the story. From episode 5, I feel a bit slow. Except for the murder mystery. That I think we've seen almost everything about. I am interested in family dynamics in Haesong. Something suspicious is going on here that we don't know yet, and that's what keeps me going. Also, how exactly did Min-jo die? It looks sketchy. What you think, viewers? Share with us in comment section. Anyway, this is a sweet episode that we almost knew the ending was going to be. Discover Adamas on TVN and Disney+. For more details, episode recaps, detailed reviews and explanations of your favorite Korean or other country movies and series, please let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.